Pat, for the great work that you do to grow and sustain our MPOD program. Uh, I want to welcome everyone who's joined this evening. If you're in Cleveland on Eastern Time. So let me just do a quick, just a quick hands up of who's here. So who's already applied to the MPOD program? Yeah, okay, fantastic. And the rest of you are considering applying? Fantastic. Is there any other category of people that is joining us today? All right, so everybody's interested or has already applied to the MPOD program. That's fantastic. I'm delighted to welcome all of you. I teach in the Weatherhead School of Management and at Case Western Reserve, and I teach a variety of different programs. I teach a variety of different courses, both for our degree programs as well as for our executive education, and also for our faculty and staff community within Case Western Reserve University. I'm just coming off a program for our mid-career women faculty, primarily in the non-tenure track. I also do a similar program for the tenure track. I teach in the Asian Faculty Association Leadership Development Program. All of these programs I've created, in part at least, in collaboration with fantastic people all across the university. And I'm also teaching in a program in our executive education on Leadership Lab for Women in STEM and Manufacturing. We're just kind of renaming it to Leadership Institute so that it's a little bit broader and appeals to more people. In the MPOD program, I teach a course called Inclusive Leadership in a Global Context. And we focus on what is inclusive leadership, what are the connections between being an inclusive leader and being a change agent and understanding organizational change and organizational dynamics. And in this, we really focus a little bit more strongly and cleanly on concepts, practice, challenges, opportunities involving and surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion in organizations. We spend a little bit of time understanding what leading organizations are doing. What are some of the frameworks that would be helpful to leaders and managers and change agents as they're thinking about issues around diversity, equity, and inclusion, which today are top of mind for all companies. It's absolutely at the top of mind. I was chatting a couple of years, it's been a couple of years, this was a conversation I had with a senior manager, very upper level manager, and the one thing that he said, the question I asked him is, what is it that's important to your company today? This was a couple of years ago, and he said there are two things that I'm really, keep me up, and I'm really wanting to really move our organization forward. And he said the first one was cybersecurity, and the second one was diversity and inclusion. And that's how, and this was 2 years ago, so we know that today it's probably become the first thing. It's that important, and it's that relevant, and it's that much central to the operations, the growth, the talent pipeline, the development structure of organizations. It's all tied in with those things. What we do is also understand the lived experiences, the workplace experiences, the dynamics, realities faced by a variety of minority groups. We focus one of those classes around women's experiences. We also talk about transgender. We talk about people with disabilities. Again, trying to understand what are the implications for change agents, for managers and leaders in organizations. By understanding the lived experience, we can understand what it's going to mean for us to create a workplace environment where all can not just achieve, but thrive. The skills that our students who go through our course develop are facility with responding to a changing workforce and to a changing workplace environment. And also looking at themselves in terms of their own biases, prejudices, growth areas, and strengths and opportunities to determine the next steps to be a leader, to give contributions as a team member, and to drive change in organizations. That's primarily what we do in this course. As part of our mastery pedagogy that we're beginning to innovate around as a program, perhaps you've already heard some of this from our program director and our associate program director. As part of that new structure that we're bringing in, we will also involve students in a variety of different projects that are to be conducted in organizations, involving feedback from managers and from others who are impacted by these projects. And the projects may range from setting up an employee resource group or a set of employee resource groups, or they might be, understanding more about pay equity. Maybe they can involve, bringing people into the talent pipeline so that there's a more explicit understanding of succession and planning for succession and development and so on. So there's a variety of different projects that we've created a structure around that students who want to take more of a mastery approach towards inclusive leadership topics in the areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion can be brought into the design to go ahead and conduct these projects. Folks, those are the only 2 slides I have. So I'm going to turn it over now to you, to any questions you may have or any thoughts you may want to share. I'm glad to respond, and there are others here who might have even more informed answers. What's on your mind? What would you like to hear about? Tell us a little bit about yourself also. I might have to call on each of you if you don't volunteer. So just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, where you're coming in from, where you're working, what you do, and then anything that might be of interest to you. And once we go through, there are only 6 of us here, so I would love to hear about who you are also. Tracy, let's start with you.
Perfect. I was going to unmute myself, so you must have felt that.
Okay.
Well, my name's Tracy Chellis. I currently live in Durham, North Carolina, and my work is in the nonprofit sector. I work for a foundation here that focuses on healthcare, getting healthcare to rural areas in North Carolina, and we support an initiative actually of another philanthropic foundation that is seeking to amplify the voice of rural leaders in 10 rural counties in North Carolina. And so the topic of equity and inclusion is very much a part of the work that we do. We primarily work on responding to the social determinants of health, and we actually just got done facilitating a series of focus groups for a foundation here in North Carolina that's looking to address systemic racism in healthcare. And so my interest is very much in understanding, how we get to the systems level problems that we face. And also, I think the other thing that's become so clear from the work is how, as a white person, I can act as an ally to support folks who are whose voices need to be heard, and how we amplify that within the work that we do.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Vicky? Vicky, you're still on mute.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes, this is Vicky. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I work for the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. I do labor and employment law. I am a supervisor, a mid-level supervisor. Have spent 23 years enforcing federal laws against discrimination, resolving cases, mediating cases, and also supervising a group of 7 investigators who investigate systemic cases based on the laws covered by the EEOC. And so at this point in my life, with 27 years in doing that and 36 years of federal service, I would like to move out of the enforcement side and go more into the diversity and inclusion side, to be able to make a difference in the training areas and the nonprofit type of work. I also work in a church. I do church work as well. This program, the MPOD program, is very interesting to me. I like what it stands for. I have a master's in diversity management and organizational leadership from Cleveland State. And I just wanted to make sure that, my program would not like overlap with what I've already done. But it sounds like, just listening to Dr. Bilimoria talk, I could listen to you all day long talking about diversity and inclusion. I really have a desire to do this kind of work. And I talked with Patricia about the program, and it really sparks my interest. I do have a lot of experience with labor and employment discrimination. And now I want to do something on the other side of the house to kind of bridge all of that together to see what I can offer in the industry of D&I.
Phenomenal. That's phenomenal. So glad to hear you. I know we talked earlier as well, so I'm so delighted that you're still pursuing more information about our program. Fantastic. Greg, it's so great to see you again. You're still on mute. Yes, there you go.
Okay. How are you?
Great, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm just sightseeing, I guess. Harlow knows me, Patricia knows me, and you know me. So I've been around for quite a while. A great deal of experience with helping organizations grow, transition, not just diversity, but operationally, and many other areas. My primary activity at this point in time is focusing on leadership, building leaders to be more effective in what they do. And I think Pat, I don't know if Harlow knows, but I have an executive coaching business where I focus on leaders in nonprofit to help strengthen their position. In addition to that, I also have a nonprofit of my own that focuses on parenting. And I'm using much of what we've learned over the past, I don't want to say how many years with MPOD, but I'm using that to enhance the position and empower parents all over the world. And, they're thirsty for it. They're like a forgotten group. They sit off to the side and people don't really give them the credit that they deserve. So we're doing a number of things, including advocacy and teaching them to become stronger advocates, teaching them to speak up more. The key to much of what's going on, and I'm going to be quiet because I can talk all day. I'm not going to do that. The key to what's going on is finding out where people are in that particular moment and then building from there. When we talk about leadership, we all have leadership styles and nuances. Let's find out what we own first, how that might impact whatever exchange or interaction we might have. So I'm just here sightseeing. Harlow and Pat know that I love the program. I wish I had the whatever resources or credentials to be there interacting with students more often to help them as a mentor or a coach or even a part-time instructor. That's my desire. I love helping people. I've been doing it for more years than you really want to know. But that's what I do. And going through this program really became a huge part of my foundation professionally and personally. So embrace them as both professionally and personally, because it really impacts you as an individual and makes you stronger.
Thank you so much, Greg. And I want to say this has been my experience of our MPOD program, that there are always MPOD alums, or even MOD alums, which was the earlier version.
I'm a MOD alum.
All right,
Yeah.
welcome back.
Yeah.
So we have such committed and so I'm going to say excellent, dedicated, and forward-looking, alums that will support and help our current students, either with projects, with mentorship, with coaching, with leadership development, and so on. And it's just a phenomenal experience to see that and to be part of it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, let's move on. Brittany, how are you?
I'm doing well. Let's start my. So I am a MPOD 12 grad. You did hear Marty over there, who finally went to sleep. And so I currently work for a gospel rescue mission in Pittsburgh. And we have a new executive director who is very interested in diversity. So that's going to be the next project. So I want to learn more about what companies are doing to increase diversity and inclusion and awareness, because we can spot it, but how do we move towards improving those areas?
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. And this is a, as I said, the need for change is so high, and there's so much going on in the larger society, civil society, that it's very much present in the workplace as well, in all workplaces, frankly. And so we're seeing that there's a much higher need for managers to be skilled in managing not just the diverse workforces they work with, but also just managing in society, managing their lives in society. There's much more need for that. So in our course, we would definitely be doing some of these discussions around what are these companies doing, what are leading managers doing, what experiences do we have. The readings that we look at are very broad but deep as well. All right. So and there's one more person online. So Emily, welcome. I see that you're part of our MPOD program. coming in.
Yes, I am, and I apologize that I don't have my video on. I was driving, and now I'm back home. So thanks for having me, and Dr. Bilimoria. I just really wanted to be able to hear you speak, and I'm just super excited to be starting the program in January. So looking forward to
Fantastic.
that.
That is so cool. We welcome you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you know, I want to just kind of give a brief overview of what some of the questions are that we will cover in our course. You know, questions like, what does it mean to be truly inclusive? What is the relationship between diversity and inclusion and equity? How do inclusive leaders think and act? How do global leaders develop an inclusive identity? What competencies do leaders need to lead effectively in a changing and global world? What are the benefits of diversity and inclusion to organizations? What are recent trends in the practices of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in global businesses? How do inclusive leaders understand their own implicit biases and promote them, the recruitment, advancement, retention, and thriving of diverse leaders? What gender-based workplace issues constrain the achievement and thriving of women in organizations? What are the intersectional experiences of people of color in workplaces? What can organizations and change leaders do to provide diverse employees with opportunities to excel? And how can their career advancement and leadership development be facilitated? These are some of the kinds of questions that we will discuss, and sometimes we won't have enough time, frankly, in the course to cover everything, you know, face to face. Then we engage outside of the class as well. We have assignments that are so meaningful. I'm right now reading the assignments, that the papers that were written after one of my sessions, and it is just they just blow me away, you know, the depth to which our students go in understanding the phenomenon and taking a look at it from the point of view of their own lives, their own professional lives, their personal lives, and you know, discussing what the implications and the learnings are for them. It's so moving, and it's so exciting to see this, to see how people can, you know, take ideas, concepts, constructs, and then apply them to their workplaces, apply them even to themselves, to create the kind of transformation at all levels, whether it's a workplace level, it's an individual level, you know, their teams, and so on. So it's very, very fulfilling, even to read the papers that are written. So, all right. Any other thoughts, questions, ideas, comments? What would you like to know? Let me ask a question to each of you then. And you reflect on it. Maybe you'll post the answer in the chat. Maybe you'll just say it. It doesn't matter, whichever way. And that is, what are the challenges that you see your organization facing today in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Dr. Billimore, this is Greg. May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I have clients, when I talk to them about diversity and inclusion, many have a focus, an internal focus on within the organization around staffing and promotions and systems that exist within the organization. And we address that. And then I try to push them to think outside of the organization. Because it's not all internal. There's also the outside. If you're serving people or serving different publics and what have you, do you cover that in your teaching the internal and the external value of diversity and inclusion and how to meld those together. I think that's important.
It's a fantastic question. Yes, of course we do that. We talk about everything that we talk about has application and implications within the workplace, but also within our lives, within our communities, within our families, frankly, everywhere. So yes, we do discuss those. Many times we discuss societal issues, societal perceptions, biases, so on. Yeah, thank you. Welcome. Hi. All right. So anyone had any thoughts about challenges that you face, and as Greg says, even beyond the workplace? Emily, good to see you in person now.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Bilimoria. I will just share that in my work in OD within the Global Leadership and Learning Institute at the Cleveland Clinic, our team right now is actually redesigning our inclusive leadership program. We formerly required all leaders to take an unconscious bias course, but we left that curriculum and are moving to a different program design, different curriculum. And one of the internal discussions we keep coming back to is how do we actually activate different behavior? Obviously, there's a lot of different research out there on how building awareness doesn't necessarily activate change and behavior change. So what are those things that we can do within even a mandatory course program for leaders that would actually change behavior? And so that's something that I'm really looking forward to learning more about from your work and your courses, and really finding out what is working, what is the research showing us that's working to affect behavior change.
Yeah, I think this is great. I look forward to learning about what you're coming up with in your revised syllabus for the curriculum for inclusive leaders at the clinic. But I think what we have learned is that when diversity, inclusion, equity training development is a plop, that means it's just kind of one off. It's a check the box, it's a mandatory thing. Everybody has to take it. And you kind of get certified, you took it or whatever, it's a checkbox exercise. It's not that helpful in many ways. And in some cases, not all, in some cases it might actually be detrimental. It can push people back because they then feel bad about who they are or what they believe, or maybe they feel like they're being blamed for something that they didn't even do, and so on. So it can be problematic. And so I think that, some kind of one-off kind of things, go take an implicit bias test and then come back and, have a discussion about it. It kind of comes out from nowhere. And people are left thinking, how does this apply to me? Am I just, sort of a bad person? Am I being left behind? Where do I fit into all of this? So it's not that the training is bad, it's that it's not systemically integrated into the social fabric of the workplace. It isn't constructed as a meaningful dialogue or conversation that is ongoing rather than just kind of, oh, it's the fad of the day or so on. So that's more of the approach I would suggest, is a more conversational, more behavior focused, more commitment generating. A good example of this is allyship. So a lot of managers today are just being told, you need to be a better ally for, somebody who's, maybe in a minority position. And they don't know what it means to be an ally. They haven't seen the behaviors that distinguish, a colleague, a good colleague even, from being a champion and an ally. And they have to see that difference. They have to hear about it. They have to look at who a person is, who's considered an ally, not by themselves, but by those who they're supposed to, ally with. And then learn about what are the things that they can do to move in that direction. But even just mandating, be an ally, what does that mean? Why should I be an ally? What is it in for me? I can do it once or twice, but to be sustainable, managers need to understand, how does it help our whole team? How does it help our whole organization? And ultimately, how does it advance the kind of work we want to do? Serve the patient, serve the student, serve the client, the customer, whoever. Those are the kinds of things. So anyway, it's a bigger, organization-wide, programmatic, sustainable, not a kind of add-on, but more of integrated, that makes the difference, I think.
Thank you for that. I wish I could just export you into our team meeting tomorrow morning, but I will try to bring up some of these things that you discussed, because we've also been talking about that. So thank you. Yeah, really looking forward to learning more.
Fantastic. It's also one other thing that I will say. It's easy to do it out there. It's harder to do it in here. So really understanding what is the impact that I have, what are the biases I carry, gaining greater self-awareness, humility, willingness to learn. These are the things that sometimes in the everyday pressures of the work, people kind of forget, and they kind of get caught up in the other stuff. And so how do we help people to take that energy and the time, to look at themselves and look at their teams? And I don't mean it, look at your strengths also. It's not about looking at, where I'm failing. It's about where have I been, supportive of others, and how can I magnify and amplify that? All right, these are fantastic. And Tracy, I love your comment about not enough diversity, not enough leadership, acknowledgement of the lack of diversity, and push to understand the barriers and work to break them down. That's fantastic. Yeah. Folks, I'd like to say just thank you for being here. You've been fantastic. Although I've done more talking than perhaps, I would have liked. But it's been my pleasure to be here with you. If there are no other comments or questions, I'm glad to kind of shut our session down, and look forward to seeing you in some other context, hopefully in the program or beyond. I look forward to our paths connecting soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
everyone,
so
for
much.
coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Okay,
Take care.
you also.
You
You as well.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take